All right, let's go.
Hello, today I'm talking to my friend Michele Lambert. Michele is a specialist recruiter for the direct response industry, and she does something which is kind of different in the space of like how people help entrepreneurs act like real business people, which a lot of people in our space don't seem to do. They seem to do everything by the seat of their pants and just grab whoever they can get a hold of. And so Michele kind of encourages them to think strategically, build operational systems into their businesses, and actually treat recruitment as a process, not some sort of random lucky dip, which is more typical. So yeah, Michele, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do to get started?
Thank you. That was a really great summary. I really appreciate it. Yeah, that's exactly it. I have been working in operations online business for about 10 years now, and I've realized that one of my favorite parts about it is connecting people, so businesses and talent. So I kind of just really hone in on what it is that the business needs, where they're kind of needing a little bit extra support, as well as kind of any special qualifications and specifications that are really going to help them, kind of some personality profiling and things like that to match them with the right candidates. So yeah, just really trying to like basically help business owners have less decision fatigue and just a faster, easier onboarding process. So yeah.
Okay. There are millions and millions of recruiters out there, and plenty of them in the tech industry and in online specifically, but you've kind of niched yourself down to serving direct response businesses. So how did you figure out that this was a good space for you to be in? And how did you actually, most of the people I meet who are in direct response, like clicked on a Google ad saying how to make money online. So how actually, what got you into this industry? How did you find out it even existed, the seedy underbelly?
Oh, for real. Yeah, I know. That's the thing, is like Google how to make money online, and there you are. So I actually got it a little bit different. I found the DR industry in the last few years. And so that's kind of where I really started to hone in and specialize, because I just, really connected with a lot of people in the DR space. I really enjoyed them. So before that, I was working more in like brand building, like with doctors and things like that. I was working at a doctor's office. It was over 10 years ago, and he asked me to build an online business for him.
Mhm.
And he was wanting to write a book and had all these dreams, New York Times bestseller and all that. So actually, our first launch was a New York Times bestseller book launch, very successful one. We sold 9,000 books in 36 hours, and he hit the list. And we had all kinds of like custom supplements and all that kind of stuff on the back end, programs, all the fun. And that was really when I got addicted to launches, and it's just kind of been a fun little slope ever since. So been kind of helping build businesses and products for a while, but the DR side has really been a super fun area that I've dived into a little bit more lately.
Okay, and you start out with that launch. So with that doctor, I mean, did you use something like the Jeff Walker product launch formula or something else to actually put that all together?
Yeah, actually, I went to a bunch of Jeff Walker stuff and some of his like events, and did his trainings, as well as the Mindshare Mastermind and a few others. So the doctor was Dr. Alan Christensen, actually. So he was big in the Mindshare space with JJ Virgin and all that. So what we did with that launch was actually primarily just organic and affiliate traffic. We didn't do any ads or anything like that. This was like 10 years ago. So we weren't super versed in that space yet, but yeah, it was yeah, a lot of SEO. We had done a few like little like mini launches before, and kind of like bringing in people to the list and stuff like that. So we had built up a pretty good list, and we just had some really good affiliates, really incredible affiliates.
That's cool. I didn't actually realize that you were also like a marketer and a copywriter as well as being a recruiter.
I'm not a copywriter. I wish. That was like the one thing I was like, man, this is like the skill that I was always lacking and scared of. So until I got into Copy Accelerator, I really hadn't even been writing before. And then I just started journaling and writing and kind of playing around with it. So I've
Hmm.
never technically written for any of the offers, but I do like a little bit of copy chiefing for them, more marketing strategy. Previously been like COO, CMO kind of stuff. So I do a lot of the offer builds and big picture, but I think it really helps me also in the recruiting side, because I've experienced a lot of the different roles that I'm hiring for. Like I've also been a Keep certified partner. I've launched numerous books and programs and offers, as well, built them, from Kajabi to custom builds and all kinds of stuff. So We actually built a summit once. Oh my gosh, this was nuts. Sorry, I'm gonna go off on a little tangent here. We had the craziest time. Like, I was working with this one client, and we were building out a summit, and it was super dope summit, and we had like over 100 affiliates promoting for it and everything, and we were using this one software that we found out like 10 days before we were launching that we weren't going to be able to track our conversions properly. So we actually rebuilt, while the 100 affiliates are currently like promoting and everything, we rebuilt the entire summit platform on a new like custom build and everything, while still like refining sales pages and opt-ins and everything. That was like the craziest launch I've ever been through. But also I just freaking love launches. So yeah, I played around in all spaces.
Why did you in recent times you've sort of focused very much on recruiting as like your thing, right? You're what you're known for, because that's what I know you for. And
Yeah.
why did you decide that was where you want to go? Because I mean, it's like something that's really needed in the space, but it's not something that people are necessarily always looking for. So you maybe have to pitch yourself a little bit about why you need me when you talk to direct response business owners. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like that's exactly it. Is like it's really needed in the space, because especially direct response, like business owners, I feel like they don't often have the staff that to do the hiring and the onboarding and all the HR processes and all the reviewing and stuff. So I kind of bring that aspect where they just get like the highly qualified people. But yeah, I kind of decided after that launch for the summit, it honestly threw me into a bit of a nervous breakdown, and I was a little I mean, it was pretty intense. So I just was like, this is just not working for me anymore. I've been doing it too long. Like, I kind of need a little bit of a break. And I realized that the part that I love the most is connecting business owners and team members. And so, I enjoy creating processes and systems, and I still do that in certain ways. But for the most part, it's the connecting people and like the excitement on team members' faces when they're like, oh, I got like this amazing job, and they're like telling all their friends. Like, it feels good to place them. But then also like business owners, I love hearing like when they're like, man, I've been searching through like hundreds of applicants, and like, you just sent me people that I didn't have anything close to. And like, the decision fatigue and just the frustration that comes with it, being able to kind of solve a lot of that. I guess I didn't realize how needed it was. And it took me until very recently to even accept that this role was needed, but I think it is. I think it's really important.
Okay, so if you just excuse me, I'm just taking notes on the things you say, because I have a habit of like forgetting what I want to talk about. Because you'll get into listening to what someone's got to say, and then you'll move to the next section. Oh, I wanted to ask them something. So now I tend to write questions. I don't prepare questions for these conversations. I just write the questions as the person talks and think, okay, these are the next three things I can ask them about. So you don't have too much dead air. Because I have a habit of doing that as well, zoning out and like having like 30 seconds where I don't say nothing. And that doesn't seem to work very well anymore. People expect everything to be chopped down to the second where there's no gaps.
I mean, you're doing freaking awesome, and I get it. You should see me. Like, normally I'm taking like pages worth of notes, but I think I'm a little too nervous right now.
Okay, cool. So like one thing that I've noticed, because obviously doing freelancing, consulting, working with people and applying for plenty of gigs over the last 4 years, is that a lot of business owners, especially considering that they're direct response marketers, where they beat the drum all the time of like, what's in it for me, what's in it for me. It's like got to be key to your messaging, that your messaging is not about you, that the word we is disgusting and should be banned, and that everything should be about I or you, and that basically that all the messaging should be tailored to the what's going on in the prospect's mind, and actually trying to connect with them, and both mentally and emotionally, so that they can actually absorb your message. They talk about all this stuff and they execute on it brilliantly in their campaigns and their products. And then when it comes to recruiting, they throw all that shit out the window. And it's just like, I need this, I need this, I need this. And you've got to be a brain surgeon, and you've got to be able to fly a plane, and you've got to be able to butcher a hog. And I won't say anything about how much money you're going to get, but it's going to be the opportunity of a lifetime.
Yep.
And
Yep.
don't call me and don't message me. Just send an email to my secretary and she'll pass it to me, maybe, if you're any good. And it's like, dude, you are when you make a post like that, you are basically guaranteeing that you're going to get a lot of shitty applicants who are totally unqualified, because qualified people will say, hey, I got options, bro, I don't want to deal with this crap. And then the next part, they come back and say, oh God, I got 50 DMs from people and they all suck. Like, well, can we talk a little bit about that, about how you kind of sort of explain to them that, the direct response principle is also important in how they actually recruit?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know that I'm I mean, one of the craziest ones I've seen recently, I'll say, is also adding in like like the outdated stuff. Like, you must have a bachelor's and a master's in this, and like things that were like this industry, especially, like there's so many people who are so qualified and so darn good and so talented at what they do. Like, I'm sorry, I think those are important aspects, but like a lot of the stuff like you're talking about, like you need to be specifically here, or having these qualifications, sometimes it's just a little bit it's a little bit unnecessary. And so yeah, it's those hard conversations you kind of just have to have with people and get comfortable, like, is this really as important as this? So it's like, this or this, and also trying to bring out in them ideas in ways that are more helpful and fun and interesting, enticing to work with a business. So finding if they offer sponsorship programs, cross team trainings, if they do any kind of like in-person masterminding with the group, what kind of incentive programs they have. So I try to also like give them kind of ideas and suggestions that are going to make the new team member really happy as well. So try to soften some of the requirements as well, for the right fit, and then just suggestions to make it really a great fit in person or job that people are interested in.
Yeah, I mean, I know exactly what you're talking about there with the requirements. Like, if I'm going to apply for a gig or put my hat in for it, if it says anything about a resume, or they want to see a resume, I'm just not going to apply, because I feel like I got out of that world in 2018 when I left the last job I was in, and I'm not going back. And if they want you to resume, then they're going to treat you like an employee is the starting point. And I'm not going to be treated like an employee. I'm an external consultant. I'm somebody they work with, but I'm not coming in a subordinate role. That's one part. And then the second part is like, everyone that I've worked well with has been somebody who kind of trusts their own judgment. So I'm happy to be asked to talk about my experience, about the results. I'm happy to be asked to kind of, even deliver some, relevant samples and things like that. But the minute there's a resume, I'm out. And I know a lot of people are like that too. So it's like, it's getting that message across, right? To let them know that actually you have to, if you want creative people, they tend to be kind of stubborn and prickly, and you're just going to have to kind of roll with that a little bit.
Well, and the more talented people too. So it depends on like, the level that you're looking for. So like the more, not more talented, but like more experienced people aren't necessarily going to have a resume. So I try to like, bridge that by saying like, maybe if you don't have a resume, and about you, or a one page or some highlights about you, so that we can kind of highlight your skill set and also your experience without you having to actually have a specific resume. But that way it kind of makes it easier for me too, to bring you up to other people and everything as well. So like, resumes aren't necessarily the end all be all. Like it's great to take a look at them to get a better snapshot of somebody's history, but it's their work samples, it's why they want the job, it's the kind of highlights that they've had in the job, the career wins. It's more like specifics of what they've done that matter. And I think that's where the difference between a resume or an about you page or a one page, career highlight is just as valuable without having to do that. But also you got to like think of it also as like, a consultant like you is a little bit different approach than, somebody looking for like a marketing manager or something like that kind of role. So, a full-time versus a consulting are always a little bit different as well. So.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
I've made some comments about the employers, the offer owners. I'm going to make some comments about the freelancers now, because a lot of them absolutely suck donkey balls at even at applying for gigs. You'll go to a job board and something's posted up, and let's presume that the post is really good. Like, it tells you about the requirements. It also tells you about the benefits and why it's going to be such a great opportunity. And it gives a clear picture of what's involved, what you're going to get. And so everyone, who sees it knows what's up. And then you see like these DMs, like, I'm interested, like one word, or
I'm
Or
not sure
DM me,
you're
DM
interested.
me.
Yeah.
Or on the other hand, you get somebody who like leaves this 20-line comment where they tell their whole life story. They're like, you know, neither of those are the right approach. And you get like people stuff where they've actually specifically said, look, we don't want DMs or comments. We want emails sent to this specific mailbox, and people just completely go, I've sent you a DM. Can you check your spam folder? Which you're already condescending to the person doing the role. So can we talk a little bit about how actually freelancers, copywriters, even maybe potentially media buyers, other people who are looking for those client gigs can put their best foot forward and actually show themselves to be somebody valuable to an employer, potential employer or client?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of like you said, like when you get just dozens and dozens of DMs, especially when it just says interested, you have no idea what role, because like usually you're looking at multiple, like even business owners, like aside from recruiting, are typically hiring multiple people. So it's like, you got to really specify what it is you're interested in and what kind of value you bring. So you always have to kind of lead with the value you're bringing to the business owner, or, whoever it is that you are trying to work with, or, whoever's attention you're trying to get. It's anything just the same as you would for anything that you're promoting, is like you're trying to cater to the results that you are going to deliver for them and the outcome, the desired outcome. So like a lot of, sometimes like if people say like check your spam DMs like that, I actually get some really talented people who weren't my friends that go into spam. So that's somewhat helpful, as long as it's like an actual, you're giving some context there. So and also like the commenting and stuff like that, like it can be helpful, but don't, put your life story in the comments, that save it for save it for the DM, or, a message, or just skip it. You can skip it too. But I would suggest like the number one thing is just, if you can just follow like the instructions on the, like they're actually asking for in the post. Majority of people are going to tell you exactly how to apply, exactly how to ask questions, what you need to know. And when you don't follow those directions, it's almost an immediate no, because like if you're not going to follow the simplest directions in the beginning, like are you going to follow them, for the client? Is it always going to be difficult, like kind of following up and getting things right with you? Are we always going to have to like ask you multiple times to do something this way? Like, it's not an always no. I'm not going to say anything's an always no, but it can get a little frustrating. You're not going to be you're going to be lower on the list, in my opinion, because it can get frustrating, because, you're getting a lot of messages. You're not going to be seen in the right context. Like a lot of people, especially when they're vetting roles and stuff, like we have time that we're setting aside looking at all these roles and applicants at once. So when you send like a whole bunch of DMs, with all your qualifications and stuff, you're not going into that list of people who are actually getting looked at. I go in and then, I pull your information, I bring it over here, I do this and that. But, at what point do people get busy and those steps get missed, or that gets confused or mixed up, or some really important detail that you offered in there is not passed along because you didn't follow the original directions. So it's annoying, and it's, but it's also that it's organization. It's everybody else is incredibly busy too. And if you can't stick with the instructions, it makes it harder for everyone, I guess.
Yeah, look, I mean, and that's best case scenario, where somebody like you, who's an expert, is actually reviewing this stuff and selecting and picking the best ones to present to the person who owns the business. In a lot of cases, they've got a VA who English may not even be their first language, or they're doing it themselves while doing 3 other things at the same time. Your stuff, you've just got no chance. So can you give me just a couple of examples? And I don't mean, you don't have to obviously reveal anybody's name or details or businesses, but just maybe times where somebody did something that was a little bit different, that like immediately stood out. You said, oh, this person's good. We need to get them on. We need to get an interview with them quickly. What kind of things actually catch your attention as a recruiter?
Yeah, absolutely. There's been some incredible people applying. Like I'll give the example, Wes Blackwell and Bilal Ahmed. they have both
Right.
gone above. I mean, they're both fantastic, you know. So the thing on top of it, especially if you're a creative or a copywriter, is that if you can, you know, write something that is attention grabbing and actually interesting to the reader while still engaging to what they're trying to do and the end result, you know, that you're trying to get here. So both of them just kind of really just like fantastically displayed their skills within like just the few initial sentences of the application or email or whatever it was that was said. And then in addition is like, you know, it's tailored to the role, it's tailored to the person. It was engaging, it was interesting. It's like you actually want to read it and you're enjoying it. But the other thing is also like clarity, being, you know, really organized in terms of like, if you can give a few bullets of your highlights versus 5 million paragraphs, like those bullets are going to get read faster. The highlights are just easier to, you know, portray, understand, absorb, as well as send off to the client too. So I think those are probably the most helpful. It's like creativity, organization, paying attention to details, and yeah, highlighting your skills and your talents. I feel so bad when I don't feel bad, but I don't love it when I get people who send me stuff who are saying, oh, I'm not great at this, but you know, I want to try anyway. And it's like, you know, you're immediately disqualifying yourself. So I always kind of like shoot them some mindset stuff too. I'm like, you know, I'm still going to look at it, but just remember that when you send that to a client, you're immediately disqualifying yourself to them.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, you do have to proceed with confidence in everything you do, even if you're not 100%. And like, there's different types of people. There's people who will see, like, you know, the requirements for a role and say, oh, I don't have the experience yet. And then there's another type of person who says, well, I'm not quite there yet, but I'm pretty sure I could actually do a good job at this. And why not? I'll just make my application anyway, because who knows what might happen. And like you said, if somebody like what you mentioned about like Wes and Bilal, like if somebody actually, maybe they don't have every single qualification on the list, like maybe the location is not right, maybe they don't live in the right time zone, but if they do something that grabs attention and you think, wow, this is cool, like this got me, then you're going to say, you know what, all the requirements get thrown out the window for the right candidate, basically.
Oh, absolutely. For me and the client, I always like preface that when I'm talking to clients too, is like, you know, these are our preferred qualifications, but if we have somebody who's just exceptional, extraordinary, really special, and, you know, they're going out of their way and they're doing this like those two, then yeah, I'm definitely going to fight for them to get that role and to bring that information, just kind of, you know, bring it to the client and just say, hey, it's not exactly what you're looking for, but this person's got the grit. They're actually making an effort, and you know, they're creative. Like they really tailored this to you. Like this is really interesting, and they're more than likely gonna get a, you know, get a call at the very least to really kind of get their foot in the door and share more of who they are and how they can help the company.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned about organization too. I've actually recently invested in a program specifically about how to write better business proposals, and like, and that was the really interesting one because it's being run by somebody who's an expert in direct response space, a guy called Trevor Toecracker Crook, and like he, you know, he talked about it. He saw the outcomes of actually being able to, you know, basically position yourself better and command better fees for the same work. But from the perspective of that, if you present yourself on paper in a better way, and you know, you frame all of your applications for, and this is for consulting gigs rather than for client gigs or for jobs, but it's the same thing. If you present it in a certain way to your best advantage, you're going to stand out. And it's something that occurred to me that, like, from previous projects I've done. It was one particular I did a couple of years ago. I wrote this webinar for a client, and the client was actually managing it was managing some agency clients. It was for one of his agency clients, and whether or not the actual eventual the clients themselves were very slow. It took a long time, a lot of back and forth. And in the end, I'm not sure if the client even went ahead and took action on the offer. I don't even know if they actually went and launched. But the interesting thing was, like, the client that hired me from the agency, the key thing is like, you delivered all the work, but what really impressed me was the formatting. He's like, you laid everything out so neatly and organized that it was easy to find exactly what I needed, and that I could send it to the designer and they could see exactly where are the headings and all this stuff. They didn't need any further explanation. Whereas he said a lot of copywriters, and this surprised me because I thought I was doing what was normal. So a lot of copywriters will just send the whole document in 12-point type and no formatting at all. And then you have to get somebody else from your team to go in and format it before it goes to the design team.
Yeah, that's massive. Like that, you taking that extra step, like utilize like Google Docs, utilize that little sidebar that like gives you, like, you know what I'm talking about? The little navigation center.
Yes.
Utilize it, like, for your headers and everything. Keep it organized for your client. Show them what it's supposed to be. Like, don't just like hand them a plain text document. Like help visualize the end result. It's the same thing you would do for what you're trying to sell to customers, is what you're selling to the client is the end result and what you want that to actually look like and how that's going to be portrayed.
Yeah. So I want to move on to something else now. And this is about, the business of actually building relationships and getting known in the industry. So, some people are great at this and some people not so much. But I was having a conversation, actually two conversations earlier today. We were talking about like this idea is very hot right now, which is about personal branding. I was like, personal brand is important, but what is a personal brand? And in my opinion, it's a kind of a fancy word for a reputation.
Mm.
And something else I've said like before is like that even a reputation for being a bit of an asshole is better than no reputation at all.
At least you're known.
At least you're known, yeah. And it's like, so getting known is really important. Like having a reputation means that people are talking about you when you are not in the room. And that's really important because how else does your name get spread around? And then how do you actually get people talking about you? Well, you first have to talk to some people. And there's a lot of great people in this industry who would reach out privately to me in a DM and say, oh, you help me with this or that, or you help me to start putting myself out there. And there's a lot of people that's like will send me a message saying, how did you get started? And they think that like some people are just born more extroverted. And it's like, no, everyone's afraid when they get started. You got to put your stuff out there. But you in particular are just really good about, I don't think you're the most extroverted person, but you're really good about making connections with people and like building relationships and having people, have you top of mind. So do you want to talk about your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, I love that because I appreciate that a lot. Because coming from you, like the king of marketing and like being known out here, like I really appreciate that. So yeah, I mean, I think you're right in that, like, you just need to, I think more than anything is adding value to other people. Like I'm not by any means an extrovert. I'm very much an introvert. I've worked very hard to make myself more talkative and approachable to people, but also being able to approach people. Like some of the people that I've been asked, like, how did you become friends with this person and that person, blah blah blah. I'm like, you don't understand. Like I have gone to at least set like 3 or 4 in-person groups or this, that, and the other, and never been comfortable even saying a word to them. But eventually, you find where you can add value, and then you just start adding value. You have to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. You have to put your foot out there. You have to just put yourself out there and talk to people. Be friendly. It doesn't have to all be about business. It's just, be valuable. I like to be supportive because I feel like everybody can use extra support and love, and like why not? So it's fun for me to be able to like see what people are working on and be able to encourage and support them in that, because I love more than anything to see people achieving something that they are really really set on and really want to do. And so I like to kind of be that extra push and support. So that's kind of one of the things that I do. But aside from that, it's just being friendly, being a human, like showing, who you really are. Like you don't need to put on some facade and like act like you're this, that, or the other. You just need to be yourself and be genuine, and the right people are going to come to you for that. So I think it's a lot of just being helpful to other people, adding value, being supportive, and encouraging people, because I mean, we all need it. And just putting yourself out there, like get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Like there's not really any other way around that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, look, I give a lot of referrals to people, and I know you give a lot of referrals to people too. Like you refer a lot of business. And it's funny, like some people don't get like what that's about, or some people will reach out and say, have you got a referral for me? And I'm like, this isn't really the way it works.
Yeah. I get
Have
that
you got a
a lot too.
client for
Like,
me?
I don't even know.
Not the way it works. Is like Goodwill is kind of, you start good, you generate goodwill and you collect it, but you can't pull it out of people. You have to proactively go out and generate goodwill. And you're super good at that, Michelle. I've seen like there's lots of different things. Like, I'll give lots of referrals to people, and some people like are great, like with thanks and appreciation. Some people will send gifts or some compensation, which I don't ask for, but I always gratefully receive. I used to be like, no, I don't want to do that. And then somebody said, you have to get good at receiving stuff. If someone offers you something, the only appropriate response is thank you. So,
Yeah.
but like you're great at like giving the appreciation, you're great at like giving gifts and compensation, and you're great about following up afterwards and letting people know what the outcome of an interaction was. And like those three things really help you to stay top of mind. So like I've been in situations where I've given referrals to 3 different people, and the way they handle that referral in terms of like showing respect to the client, following up with me later on and maintaining the relationship has made the difference between whether I've ever sent them something ever again. And then like there'll be certain people who will just pop up out of nowhere and you haven't spoken in 6 months and, hey, have you got anything for me? And it's like, no, thanks. But like you are superb about like all three of like compensating people in return for like benefits you've received, in showing thanks and appreciation for people, and then also in doing the following up and treating like the relationship respectfully, like letting know, hey, I worked with this person, it was a great experience and I'm going to work with them again, thank you so much. Or, you know, I talked to this person and it's not a great fit to work together, but I'm still glad we had the conversation and I tried to help them other ways. So you like let people know that everyone's been treated respectfully. So can you just tell me a little bit? I've kind of just said what you do, but like tell me a bit about your thought process behind that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's super important and valuable. Like these people are going out of their way to put their name on the line to refer and recommend you. So like, or me, you know, in this instance. So like, yeah, of course I'm going to go out of my way to take care of their client. I'm going to let them know how it's going, and or their referral or whoever it is, let them know how it's going so that they understand, you know, like this is where we are. Like, I really appreciate this because I do. Like, that's what my business is primarily based on. Like, I do so much better off of referrals, and I appreciate the people who trust me enough to work with their clients, referrals, friends, whatever, you know. And so, of course, you know, I'm very grateful for it, as well as I think compensation is more than fair. If that's gonna, you know, if that's gonna bring in something that's supporting me, I'm definitely going to pay that forward to the people who are supporting me getting those kind of careers and gigs and projects and things like that. So I think, you know, compensation, gifts, like any of the above, being grateful for it, because heck, these people do not need to go out of their way to refer you. They don't need to be the ones building your business, yet they are. And they're helping you out. So why aren't you help? So I just look at it as like, I want to help them out. And I also want to make sure their people are taken care of. So especially if it's a referral from somebody, I'm always, you know, I go above and beyond for everybody, but when it's a referral, I treat it with extra white glove, taking care of them. So I think it's important. Your name is everything. Like you said, your reputation is everything. Whether it's good or bad is up to you, and how you treat people.
Yeah, so I mean, the compensation thing is one thing, but it really is the more is like making the other person look good. If I do a referral and somebody makes me look good, it's just it's a win, because then I could be working with a client and maybe, you know, we do a project, it doesn't quite work out, but like I help them with something else, or I refer them somebody else who made me look good, and like that creates so much long-term value in the relationship. And the I'm just going to pause for a minute because there is something I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah, I do have something I want to add to that too, is that
Good.
like, in addition to that, like I have a lot of businesses that like I'm not even recruiting for them or working for them, but I send over loads of referrals, and my top people, because I know that like they're being taken care of, and it makes, you know, it makes me look good, and they often come back, you know, 3-6 months. I had somebody come back from 6 months ago, the other day, that I haven't talked to in a while, and they're like, hey, I'm ready to get started on that project now, because I'm sending over referrals and things that help them outside of just what we're talking about working on. And it brings projects in the long run, but it also helps, like, you know, it helps my community and the people around me find careers and jobs and gigs. And that's like my ultimate goal, is connecting people. So it makes you look good to be able to connect people with other good talent for businesses to work with and just help them out. It's like Goodwill, you know, pay it forward kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, my experience has always been that I get a lot more than I give. And like, you know, I think that's a hard thing to get your head around. It was hard for me to get my head around at first, but it is actually it, and it sounds so cheesy, but you always do get more than you give. Like, I mean, I've had stuff where people have come and say, hey, I want to work with you because such and such said you're a really good person and you helped them out a lot. And that person that they're talking about, our mutual connection, maybe somebody I haven't ever actually worked for or been paid to do any work for, but it might be somebody that I, spent some time talking to, had a conversation with, sent them over a resource that I felt was, valuable to them, and didn't actually provide a paid for service, but just because I did something that they liked, when the time came where they thought it was something that might be a good fit for me, they sent people along. And I'm sure you've had similar experiences.
Exactly, exactly. It's, you give and you get, and it's that constant flow. Like if you're tight on one end, you're not producing, like nothing's flowing through you. Like it's similar to like any kind of energy, whether it's, financial or, referrals and more work projects, things like this. It's flowing through you, and that's what it's meant to do. So you're meant to give in order to receive. And it's not that I'm doing it intentionally to receive. I'm just doing it because honestly, helping people makes me happy. But you do, like, you get a lot more when you're just giving. It's not, it doesn't have to be any kind of intention behind it aside from helping other people make the connections. And that being helpful to others and businesses especially is the number one thing. Like that's what everybody wants. You don't want to chase anything down or have to deal with I need money before I'll help you with anything. It's like, yeah, you have to have some level of respect there for yourself, but also like it's not always about that straightforward money in the first place, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And another thing about the value of referrals, that some people kind of think that referrals are not so good because, hey, you can't build a business off referrals. And in certain contexts, they are correct. Like if it's a sort of straight sale, B2C type business, yeah, referrals are probably not going to be the right strategy. And even if you're running a higher volume agency where you need a certain number of leads every day and week, maybe referrals are going to be part of the mix, like 20%, but maybe 80% needs to come from lead gen. But for consultant type businesses where you're working solo most of the time or you have a very small team, when a referral comes in from somebody who's already pre-approved you, like 80% of the work is done. It's so much easier to win that business because somebody else has already like paved the way for you. So do you want to kind of talk about that and how do referrals fit into the mix with your business compared to other forms of lead generation?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like referrals are the number one. They have been since I've been on my own in 2015. I've worked primarily off of referrals. I'll grab some stuff on job boards, but for the most part, it's referrals. And like, there was a time period where I did try to go out and I tried to do, I'd apply for, very cold traffic, kind of not cold traffic, but like I'd apply for gigs in a cold that did not know me at all, or I try to do a bunch of social media posts and all that kind of stuff. And to be honest, it's like, yeah, it works to a point, but like you said, like referrals are number one. You already have your foot in the door, but you also are being recommended by somebody that they trust. So they're more likely to trust you and they're more likely to work with you. It's a lot easier. You don't really have to sell yourself. Like most of my calls nowadays, I spend like 5 minutes at the end, like telling them like how it works and about me. And majority of it, I make it about the client, what the end result is. And that's it. It's been great. I think referrals are the easiest. Not, I mean, you have to maintain the referral relationship and like take care of people, be respectful and all that good stuff. So I think they're the most lucrative when you are a solopreneur kind of or smaller business owner for more high ticket consulting type of work.
Awesome. I want to move on to one more thing before we run out of time, and that's kind of just about industry trends. I mean, this year, obviously, the hot topic has been GPT, and there's been this kind of doomer mentality of like it's going to replace everybody, or even I kind of succumbed to it. I was thinking, okay, the top tier guys are going to just become 10x more productive, and they're going to soak up a lot more of the market. And maybe that trend is happening, but I think after the initial hype kind of passed by, I was like, okay, this is really important. It's valuable. It's something everyone needs to know about and probably learn and use and put into their toolkit. But at the same time, like, the generation of the words is only a small part of what any skilled and experienced marketer brings to the table for their clients. it's the idea generation. It's kind of making connections where there might not other be. But can you just tell me about kind of industry trends, like where you're seeing like there's more demand for certain skill sets, there's less demand for others, and where do you see things going over the next 18 months or so?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a really good point. Like I do see like ChatGPT and a lot of this AI stuff replacing some level of jobs. I think that in the big picture, like it's still going to be needed because in the end, like marketing is primarily based on emotions. Like you are targeting people's emotions. ChatGPT doesn't have emotions or understand emotions yet, as far as I know. And so you still need a human to really kind of bring out that side of the marketing, the psychology of it, all these kind of aspects that I just don't see ChatGPT doing. But it is a very valuable tool to get you to a place where you're no longer having that blank page block of what the heck am I going to talk about. You can get some topics together. You can kind of get some base information, stuff like that. I think in terms of like I've been talking to some friends and stuff who build a lot of AI and stuff like that, and like they're working on building marketing AI, funnel AI, and all kinds of stuff that replaces a lot of the things that I do or we do as marketers in general. And I think that in turn, like there's got to be strategy behind it. Humans are incredibly intelligent. We have become so tired of, the type of advertising that we typically receive. So I think the creative side that you get straight from a human and the creative strategy that you'll get is not going to be replaced completely. I think that there's still a human aspect needed in all of these jobs. And especially I think it's going to move a lot more to the creative side. I think it's going to help people become more productive when utilized properly. But I don't see it like fully replacing everyone and everything.
Mm-hmm. And
What
then
do
in
you think?
terms of the kind of roles that like people are coming to you are looking for, like where do you see like short supply and gaps in the market, like people that are hard to find, and what kind of skills should people be looking at developing?
Marketing manager, CMO, marketing strategy, that big picture. And the biggest side of that is like being able to have the strategy, but also the organization and implementation. So if you are an implementer, that is the number one thing that business owners have been looking for, whether it's the operations, the marketing operations manager kind of person, or kind of overseeing the team. So I would say like the skill that I would hone in on is, continue honing in on marketing strategy, as well as any kind of like organization project management type of work, because that's what a lot of people are really needing. And then of course media buyers, there's never a shortage of need for like media buyers and CRO type of work as well. So yeah, I mean, especially copywriters, like I see, there's a ton of them that are fantastic marketers. It's just putting that marketing strategy, being able to create that full on marketing strategy and see a team through actual production of it. So having those kind of skills, I think, is incredibly important and valuable.
Mm-hmm. I think the key thing of all those is being an implementer. There's a lot of people come into our industry who are ideas people and very creative people, and that's great. But if you're going to be like an ideas and creative person, you probably want to be a company founder rather than working in somebody else's team, because pretty much every successful company is led by somebody who's very, very creative on a high level, is an ideas driven person, and they don't need more of themselves. They need people to execute on strategy, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. They want to hear more than anything. They want an 80-20. So they want somebody who's 80% execution and 20% strategy. So they can still strategize and do kind of the back and forth soundboarding with them, but then they have somebody who actually executes it and actually gets it out there. Because that's the number one thing business owners in this space especially struggle with, is just the execution side. And, managing it, the creative brain and the organization management brain are, two very different sides to be flexed of the brain. So it's kind of just being able to integrate those two and really help people out in the execution side. And yeah, I think if you're all ideas and all strategy, like you should definitely try to start your own offer. There's lots of programs out there that give you all the resources to do that. And if you're looking to work with a company in the meantime while you're working on that, there's other skills that you can kind of get up to speed, or project-based stuff and things like that.
Mm-hmm. And actually, one thing I didn't mention earlier, but I wanted to just circle back to was that I've seen you like in different groups and masterminds and stuff like that, where you do a really interesting strategy, which I know a couple of people know, but a lot I think is underused, is that you just go to places where you're not necessarily there for the thing, but you're there to be the one person in the room who has a complementary skill to what the people in the room are doing. So like you're not going to a marketing mastermind to become a better marketer. You're going to the mastermind because you know at least 60 to 80% of the people in that room need help with recruitment. And you can be the one recruiter at the table who serves them.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. It was never my intention, but that is exactly what happened, and it worked out freaking great.
Yeah,
So,
it's a great strategy.
yeah, it's great. Like, you know, I started going into like Copy Accelerator was probably, I've been investing in masterminds for a while. Copy Accelerator is one of the first ones that I invested in a while, and I was not a copywriter, so I definitely stood out in the room in terms of like the operations side and everything. And the best part is it helped me grow my Rolodex. It helped me actually start my Rolodex of writers and marketers and creatives to be able to help and share with more business owners. So it kind of like got me started on this Rolodex recruiting side. And then I joined the Nothing Held Back side. And that's where Alan actually really pushed me to do the recruiting and to kind of like create this as a thing. I was like, nah, nobody's going to actually want that. No way. And then it's been really serving me quite well, and I have enjoyed it. Like I've gotten to travel, you know, I drove around the country for like 6 months in the car with my dog and just doing recruiting and doing loads of traveling and loving life and enjoying, you know, having time as well as being able to connect people with businesses. So it's pretty cool. It's like really, you got to like put yourself in a room where you're not one of many, you're, you know, unique in your skills, like similar to the Mimosa Mastermind and a few others that, you know, people I've seen attend, and, you know, just the connections you make. It doesn't have to be about, you know, landing something in that moment. It's about, you know, making connections that could, you know, serve you in the long run, but also it's up leveling your marketing and everything else too. Cause I like to always bring strategy and ideas to people regardless. So it's just fun.
Yeah, I think Alan is like, it's smart that he kind of like spotted that with you, because I think he's done a lot of recruiting himself, and he talks about recruiting a lot of like how hard it is and how underappreciated by business owners, that it's one of the major challenges. Like once you've got your creative and your marketing going and things are working well and people are buying your stuff, that's fantastic. But like that's only the first problem solved. The next problem is how the hell do you actually build a business around this without like working 90 hours a week? And it's really, really difficult for most people to get past that stage.
Exactly. Like I think it was actually somebody you sent me recently was like, they literally, I get on the phone with them, they're like, yeah, I work 20-hour days. And then I get to the fourth or fifth day and I'm like, wait, I'm sorry. You work 20-hour days 4 or 5 days in a row and you're wondering why you burn out. But yeah, that's exactly it. Is like they just, people like you have, and you know, you have it working well, you're really scaling and doing great. You know, maybe you've grown your marketing team or you've grown different departments, but you might need somebody to help you with the execution side, the actual, you know, getting implementation and getting things out the door. So you're focusing on more big picture while you have a team who's actually, you know, helping see that big picture through and create the products and the, you know, the marketing and the strategy and everything else that needs to go along with it while serving your clients and helping you grow. I mean, you can't grow without a team. Your team is everything. It's the people who carry your business. They are your business. They're helping your customers. They're helping you. So it's finding the time it's getting people to find the time to do it, which most of them don't do. And that's where I come into play.
Yeah, you
So.
have to let them kind of help them to sort of loosen their fingers, loosen the white knuckles off the controls, right?
Oh my God, getting people to let go of control is like the number one thing I do. Is so it's hard, but it's, you know, it's worth it when you see people like, they're like, oh, I saved like 15 to 20 hours a week. Like I've gained that back for my family or for more freedom on my idea time and business and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty major, actually. It's kind of cool. Like you're supplying people with a job and other people with time to spend with their family and things that they really want to do. So
that's a great, very positive note to wrap things up on, Michele. I'm going to put your contact details for whatever you want to share or let people to get in touch with you into the description of this video on YouTube. But you might as well just say it on video. Where should people reach out to you if they need help with recruiting for their businesses?
Awesome. Thank you. I pretty much, I'm working on a website right now for the Rolodex. I've got close to a couple hundred people on it, and that's going to be at Bella Creative. So for now, just email me at Michele with one L at Bella Creatives with an S.com.
Cool. Well, I'll put that in the video description too. Thank you so much, Michele. Really appreciate talking to you. And I'm going to stop the recording now, unless you have some final words to say.
I really appreciated this. I was super nervous, and this is really fun. It's nice to get to talk to this.
We're just going to have a conversation, right? It's not like a police interrogation. You haven't been accused of any crimes
yet that you know of.
Okay. Thanks so much, Michele. Really appreciate it. I'm going to stop the recording now.
Thanks.